Welcome to the Enterprise Thought Leadership Podcast, where we explore the latest in enterprise trends, tech, and strategy with the top leaders shaping the future.
Hi, welcome to a podcast on stage with Enterprise Thought Leaders. My name is Kanika, and I'm the managing editor of IT Security Wire, which is our enterprise and cybersecurity focused publication. We are engaging conversations with global thought leaders and security leaders worldwide, which reach over 1.3 million business leaders at home. HSBC recently announced the world's first known empirical evidence of the potential value of current quantum computers for solving real world problems. The bank tested a hybrid quantum classical approach on a 1 trillion euro worth of bond trading data, achieving a 34% boost in predicting trade execution compared to traditional methods. If quantum is already proving useful in trading, how long before it poses a serious risk to the cryptographic foundations that we are all relying on? Today, we speak with Jason Soroko. He's a senior fellow at Sectigo to understand more about the readiness of enterprises to meet the demands of the first workable human quantum computer. Sorry, not human. So, in all our conversations till now, Jason, we've just heard that it's a couple of years away. But clearly, that time is being crunched, and it may not be a couple of years away anymore. So we will be speaking about what to do and how to be ready for it. But before we go there, a short introduction to Jason. As I said, he's a senior fellow at Sectigo and Security Technology Innovator Executive. Jason is a leading voice on quantum readiness, and he speaks extensively on the threat of quantum computing in terms of cybersecurity threats. He has 20 years of experience researching, innovating, and managing security technologies. He works closely with enterprise companies daily to synthesize managed public key infrastructure security solutions that meet real-world operational needs. He's also a co-host of the award-winning Root Causes podcast, where he educates professionals on the latest trends in PKI and the cybersecurity, and it happens twice a week. Welcome to the podcast, Jason, and I'm really welcoming you here because I can see that you are a podcaster yourself and probably senior to me in that skill. So I look forward to speaking with you on this podcast.
Yes, it's wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you, seriously. So we start with the first question. Quantum computers are no longer a fantasy. They're fast on their way to us. So as I just said, HSBC has announced the world's first known empirical evidence of the potential value of current quantum computers for solving real world problems. What happens next? Is the enterprise ready?
Well, I can tell you that quantum computers, if you think about the concept of the term cryptographically relevant quantum computer, I think we've now entered the realm of financial application relevant quantum computer, which is a gigantic step. I think some of the announcements we've seen over the past year from IBM, Google, and others, Microsoft with the Willow chip, the Margarine chip, all of these things, including HSBC's announcement, what they're showing is that the engineering that's required to have the necessary number of stable qubits, which is really what defines the power of a quantum computer, that has been hitting its mark. The engineering was almost hard for people to believe that stable of a quantum field could be created. And now we're seeing the engineering hitting its milestones time after time as time has been moving on. And so therefore, I think we have to accept the fact that we probably will at some point end up with a cryptographically relevant quantum computer. This latest announcement is another piece of that.
So when you say we will at some point, is there any timeline attached to that? What kind of times are we looking at? Months, years, weeks?
There is. For people who are listening to this particular piece from you right now, they might want to investigate people like Michaela Mosca, professor at the University of Waterloo, and others who have been talking about this for years. And I've been citing his work and others. They've pretty much come to a statistical understanding of the intersection point of advancements in engineering, the complexities of Shor's algorithm, some of the new advancements in terms of error handling, the stability factor of these qubits has been progressing to the point where we believe that a cryptographically relevant quantum computer, we have to believe at this point that around the 2030 timeframe, there's sufficient reason to believe that there will be risk for current cryptographic algorithms needing to be deprecated. And here's my final point on that. The standards body NIST, I would say that they gave the strongest indication that 2030 to 2035 timeframe was correct, in the fact that they didn't wait for a cryptographically relevant quantum computer. They've actually put a line in the sand saying RSA and ECC as cryptographic algorithms, which are very commonly used today for encryption of data in transit. The deprecation date for those begins 2030, regardless of whether we have a cryptographically relevant quantum computer or not. And I think that's a prudent way of thinking about it.
So we do have 5 years. It's not like months or weeks then.
Oh, but it might take that long to prepare is the issue.
Yeah, and so that was going to be the question, that will we be ready even in 5 years' time?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And I can tell you that it's not a tomorrow problem. It's not a 5 years from now problem. It's a right now problem. And part of that is because of the harvest now, decrypt later problem, the trust now, forge later problem, which is for signed documents, not just for encryption. And I think that as larger enterprises that are, really just can't handle risk, we're thinking about financial industry and others, people who are regulated, even HIPAA for healthcare industry, if you take a look at the sheer amount of data that needs to be truly kept secret starting now, because of the fact that they're going to have documents that are either encrypted or signed that will live well past 2030, they have to start looking at the problem immediately. And people haven't been waiting. Apple's announcements around iMessage, Cloudflare's messages to us around post-quantum algorithms that are currently being used probably in your pocket right now with devices you might be utilizing. It shows that the large tech companies and risk-averse enterprises are starting right now to deal with the problem. It's not a 5 year from now problem. It's a immediate problem.
Right, that is so true. So according to the report, the bank tested a hybrid quantum classical approach, which achieved a 34% boost in predicting trade executions compared to the traditional methods. Where does this leave financial analysts then?
I think that from my own minor experimentation in programming a quantum computer, and I was able to do this, I gained a lot of insight into the fact that probably most useful applications of quantum computers will probably be a hybrid method. In other words, I think that just playing around a little bit with setting up quantum fields and quantum computing has led us to realize that there's probably different ways that we can think about using classical computers and classical computers alongside utilizing quantum fields. And there's certain kinds of problem sets, especially in finance and other ways, that are going to be able to utilize the power of these quantum fields and large numbers of stable qubits. It's really quite amazing. Anything that has to do with periodicity, factorization, we're talking about mathematical concepts here, but those finance people really know this well. One of the reasons why you might want to have this hybrid approach, just for interest's sake, is you can't really do error handling when you're dealing with qubits that are only going to live so long. And so therefore, having a classical computer working alongside of it to be able to perform multiple shots of the quantum field, to be able to better statistically hone in on the actual answer that you're trying to get from the quantum computer, is where the classical computers come in. Essentially, error handling and doing multiple shots and doing the statistics around it. I just think that it's incredible to me how powerful these things will become and how it will probably at some point in the future be something that we almost can't imagine having lived without, because of how deep the insights are going to be once these kinds of computers are available to us.
So when you put it like that, I think almost every technology that we've developed over the last decade is something which we could not think of before that. But now, mobility, for instance, or even AI tools, right? So it's going to come in the same way.
Everything, including all the different advancements we've been witnessing lately in AI. There are certain problem sets that are not applicable to quantum computers. However, a lot of the things that we have been working with lately are absolutely applicable. And one of them absolutely is the way in which we do cryptography and signing and authentication today. There are cryptographic algorithms such as AES 256, just to name one. Those are less susceptible to quantum computing. However, RSA and ECC, which is just utterly ubiquitous, that alongside a very clever algorithm called Shor's algorithm, it's going to cause impacts both positive and negative, in the sense that we're going to have to make wholesale changes in the way in which we do computing. So we're in for a very exciting time in computing, fortunately or unfortunately for many of us.
I think fortunately or unfortunately is the functional term here. So if quantum is already proving useful in trading, how long do you think before it poses a serious risk to the cryptographic foundations that we rely on for so much of security? That is
I
the
think
base.
that the 2030 date that we mentioned earlier comes into focus more and more. I think that's the answer, is that I think earlier on, a lot of people were looking at that 2030 to 2035 date and saying to themselves, do I really have to prepare, because I just don't see a quantum computer in reality right now. The number of stable qubits that current engineering can perform is not enough to be able to break current RSA or ECC as it is used today. And I think that what you have to look at is the evidence. And this HSBC announcement is simply another milestone of engineering that is being hit, so that we now see simpler kinds of relevant quantum computing happening. And as we see that, the ability to just disbelieve engineering milestones actually occurring are now leading us to really believe it's probably going to be right. That 2030 date is probably a date at which there will be sufficient risk due to the power of quantum computing moving on and on.
So, this just occurred to me, since you are an expert in the field and you also program quantum computers. Where else do you see applications of quantum computers in a positive way? We always,
Certainly.
in terms of.
Yeah. So anything where very fast statistics and insights from statistics are needed, where periodicity, factorization is required, that's just an incredible power for quantum computers. So if you think about self-driving vehicles, think about how fast a computer needs to be able to take in all the sensor information, to be able to get insights from that. There's current ways in which, the mathematics of graphics cards is being able to handle that. The mathematical power of graphics card is right now the reason why we have such powerful artificial intelligence. But imagine if certain very specific math problems that require factorization can be speeded up immensely by a quantum computer. Those subsets of problems within AI, within various kinds of statistics, within even something like self-driving vehicles, if that were somehow able to be the weight of that work were able to be put onto a quantum computer, those are entire problem sets where quantum computers will be viable. Absolutely.
Right. So, with the new paradigm, where do you see business processes headed now? So when I'm saying business processes, this we would like to know about how organizations can A, protect themselves, B, leverage the new technologies, and C, be ready for them.
I would say the best thing to do as an enterprise, and this is something that I've spoken about in other venues, um, the democratization of quantum computing will come probably through the hyperscalers.
Yeah.
It will be unusual for an enterprise to host its own quantum computer, especially in the early days. And so, therefore, you're going to leverage quantum computing probably the same way that you leverage scalability in an enterprise today in classical computing, which is to go to the cloud and utilize large cloud hyperscaler infrastructure. The ability to very quickly stand up that infrastructure is today available to us. And that is the way in which quantum computing will be made, to democratize the technology, make it available to everyone. It will be through that route. It will be the natural route. The risk is lock in. Those cloud hyperscalers their business model is to lock you in. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something as an enterprise you need to be very aware of.
That is very true. And so this begs just one more question, which again just occurred to me. What about the skills part of it? We do discuss a lot as AI has come in. How about reskilling people, or how should I put this? Re-educating people who are not probably very comfortable with the AI tools or whatever. How does quantum? Because quantum is far more technical as far as its usage is concerned. So you can teach youngsters AI tools, but how will you make them comfortable working on a quantum computing environment?
I am so glad to have had the experience of programming a quantum computer because it completely changed my mind about what a computer is for, what it can do, how to program it. And in fact, it's not just how technical it is. It is actually a complete change in how to think about computing. A literal, absolute 100% 180 paradigm shift change in how to think about how to do computing. I'm just like everybody else, and I was trained in the the classical era of programming digital computer, and doing things just simply as error handling are completely natural to me. It's just the way my brain works on the pattern, just like everybody else who programs a classical computer today. You can't do that with a quantum computer. So just take away entire fundamental concepts of how you program a computer, and you've got to toss them away and think completely differently. And just like AI has now left us with a new era where there are people coming up through the ranks who are now AI native. They've never had a world that didn't have AI. That's fantastic. We will also have people that will be quantum native. And that, I think, will be the shift because old dinosaurs like me, which is essentially all of us today, we almost have to make way for a new generation of people who will natively have their brains thinking in a completely new paradigm. That's what I think it will take. It's I think that the combination of artificial intelligence that will be assisting us to work with quantum computers will be essentially the crutch with which old timers such as myself will be able to utilize quantum computers. However, it's that new generation that I think will take the biggest advantage of it in the next 5 years.
So do you think 5 years are going to suffice for making organizations quantum ready, technically, skill wise?
I think right now, just like in post-quantum algorithms, where the job one is to take inventory of your cryptographic assets. That's what everybody should be doing right now in order to understand where the issue is for you in terms of being quantum ready from a cryptography sense. I think that there's a second whole other topic, which is what is the inventory of problem sets with which a quantum computer will be necessary in order for you to remain relevant as an enterprise going forward, because your competition is going to be taking on this kind of computing as well. So that's the inventory to take as an enterprise to become ready, is start with your cryptographic algorithms. Learn how to do taking fundamental inventory of entire systems within your enterprise. But then the question is slightly different for quantum computing, which is, what are the problem sets that quantum computing is truly great at that will affect your enterprise specifically? That's the challenge.
That's very interesting. So those are the questions I had for you, Jason, and I have to be extremely grateful to you that you could make time and speak with us today. There are not many people who can speak with so much authority on what's coming in terms of quantum computers. So thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us for the Enterprise Thought Leadership Podcast. Please do follow us on social media and subscribe for more ideas and insights. Until next time.